Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy G and Invasion. This video is going to be about Destiny 2. I know a lot of people have put videos out there. I personally had about 3 or 4 videos. Scrapped each one of them because every time when I watched a new video on YouTube, it was always given information either that I wasn't privy to and I had to think about it for a little bit, or it was, man, they're saying some of the same stuff, but procrastination is the hindrance of creation. So I was just like, you know what? We're pretty much, after the recent news, hearing about what's going on with Destiny 2 or just the Destiny franchise in its totality. I figured I might as well go ahead and just put my opinion out there, you know, what I was hoping for and everything else. I'm not going to try to make this a long video because shoutouts to Aztec Ross. He, I would say, is the prolific or the main person when it comes down to the Destiny franchise or Destiny 2 when it comes to content, even though there's many other people. And I've been along the ride just like everybody else with it. So let me give you a brief introduction into me, right? You know, it's like I said, it's your boy G and Invasion. Been playing Destiny since the alpha, back when you had to pay for Destiny. So let's give you some memorabilia real quick. The useless strategy guide of Destiny 1, because this was only useful before the DLCs. Nothing else after that. And of course, you can't forget about, yeah, look at them hard, physical copies, y'all. You don't typically hear about people with physical copies of anything anymore. I've been with Destiny for a very long time before it became free to play, even to the point to where I was shilling for it so hard I got one of the, you know, t-shirts for it. So there's things that I always wanted in Destiny from Destiny 1, and surprisingly there were a few things that they did implement to the point to where I was feeling like a conspiracy theorist, where it was just like, wait, is somebody listening to me? Are they listening to the phone that I'm on? Of course not. It's just great minds think alike, and they were actually thinking about it, but they didn't do it to the totality that I thought they would do. Like I said, I do have older videos. I don't know if they're all deleted or re-edited or something like that, so I might still put that one out there. But I'm pretty much just going to try to summarize as quickly as possible everything that I wish Destiny had and some changes, because let's be totally honest, we know where Destiny franchise is going at the moment. The only living, breathing version of it will be after this update and the finality of what's going on with that, and then they have the mobile game, right? So I'll just start off with this. Ever since Destiny 1, I was wondering how many different subclasses we were going to get of different elements. Sticking with 3, and then, you know, for light, and eventually we got 3 for darkness is cool and all. But I thought we were going to treat it like any type of MMO or gacha game or anything else, and we was going to have some elemental some subclasses of subclasses, right? Now, I do understand that would take a lot of R&D, but I was thinking maybe some subset of powers, and maybe they would work differently. Like Stasis has ice, but not even thinking about light and dark. I was wondering if we was going to get water subclass, a wind subclass, a earth, or even something as weird as like a mud subclass or something like that. You know, Void has gravity and everything else when it was coming down to light. Because we have arc, which is lightning, I was thinking maybe we can have a sound one, maybe call it the thunder subclass or something like that deals more with sound. You know, fire, there might be magma or something like that, you know, just something. Of course it didn't go that way. The cool thing is they started getting different aspects of the subclasses, where, you know, you have the solar subclass, which I've always been a warlock main for the most part. So you have what? You got the support, the well, and then you have a roaming one. Well, I guess they're both roaming. It's just one you can fly in the air and do it more, and the other one you can stay on the ground, snapping your fingers and shooting out projectiles. But I always thought there would just be more to them. Now every subclass we know does not have 3. And again, thanks to Aztec Ross, I've been able to hear about more updates and everything that's going on with what they're trying to do with this final one. But again, I thought these were things that would just be common sense to do, earlier on in it, to just keep people invested. So they don't have a bunch of different elemental subclasses. We only got the 6, and even within the 6, not all of them have a third one, and they're going to be correcting that. Now, around the time when I was playing Destiny, another great game that I actually liked that it came out, which was Diablo 3. I'm not going to have pictures in this video, but I have well over, I think like 400 or 500 hours when I was playing that on console, because I was playing it on the PS3 or 4 whenever it came out. And then with Destiny 2, I have over 5,000 hours in. In Destiny 1, I have a lot. Maybe in another video or even a picture I put on YouTube, I'll post the actual numbers on it, because I did take screenshots of it. But my numbers are low as far as Destiny. I want to say maybe I'm around 5,200 at the moment, is because at one point I actually stopped cold turkey playing Destiny, because maybe the content wasn't there, maybe there was a change in how I was playing, or life was lifing. But I did always want versatility in the game, and at one point it was bland. There was a few spots where it was bland. So one of the games that got me off of it, which I'll put gameplay on eventually on, is Anthem. Now, I noticed my video is not going. Oh, there we go. So one of the main things that was always going on with this game that I liked more, for some reason, I always knew that Destiny was kind of like a Star Wars ish type of feel, fantasy, the power fantasy and everything else with magic and everything. But for some reason, Anthem gave me a little bit more of what I wanted Destiny to be, which was, and it was done in a different way, and I'll explain that for a second. Traveling these vast areas, I think, is just so cool. And the fact that Anthem felt more like you could power your own Iron Man suit. And, I played the Storm Javelin. Again, Destiny Warlock, Anthem, Storm Javelin. You was able to roam around these vast areas. You had enemies pretty much almost area. They were in spurts and bits and pieces. But the difference is while in Anthem, you had to load into everything. Destiny, you actually could go through corridors and everything else to get to locations, and there wasn't a bunch of loading. The only loading you had was in the very beginning. So if you, in some type of way, could put Destiny in Anthem's world, treat it like Destiny or whatever else, but make it to where I didn't have to load into everything, it would have been so much better in my opinion. On top of that, I love the third person vibe. It's always going to be there. And for some of y'all that might be listening, it's kind of like, well, there is a game that's kind of similar. I will talk about that one a little bit later, but I'm just trying to give y'all a feel of like certain things that I was hoping that Destiny would actually, bring. So because I can't remember everything, I did write down some of the stuff that I was hoping for. Now, going back to Diablo 3, they did one thing that I wanted Destiny to do. You gave us common, uncommon, rare, legendary, and exotic. Diablo 3 kind of gave us the same thing, and then they ended up coming up with like ancient gear, which was just like legendary, but full exotic gear. I don't know why it's even taking that long. A person can scream about power creep and all this other stuff. they were always tuning and balancing. But can you just imagine the build diversity you would have if you could wear full exotic gear? Hell, I don't even care about having full exotic weapons, but full exotic gear to me would have been gangster. Because like, I came up with a few builds, you know, as far as when it came up to warlocks, and I was just thinking about arc builds, void builds, solar builds. So tell me if any of this sounds good to you. And of course, you could change this in any way you want to, but like for arc, the head, Fallen Star, the arms, Claws of Amakara or Necrotic Grips, body, Vespers of Radius, legs, Geomag Stabilizers. You already know where this build is now going towards. And then, of course, the bond, you know, Ozomancy and Spirit of Harmony, right? Solar, Eye of Another World, Sun Bracers, Phoenix Protocol, Second Filament, and then, you know, either Spirit of Ozomancy and Vesper or Ozomancy and Claw. Void, Nazareth Sin with either Controverse Hold or Nothing Manacles, Mantle of Battle Harmony, Lunafaction, and then whatever bond of your choice. Stasis, Apotheosis Veil, either Ozomancy Gloves or Balador's Wrath Reavers, Rhymecoat Raiments, Second Filament or Boots of the Assembler with the bond, and you know, so on and so forth. I don't know. My brain has been trying to figure out what's the conflicting interest in being able to wear all exotics. You're talking about bringing in a ridiculous amount of build diversity. Granted, you would be like, oh man, the power scaling would go out the roof. I can't lie, the way Destiny has been going, you got to treat it kind of like Dragon Ball Z. The power levels don't matter no more. You know, you fine-tune the numbers wherever you need to, but I remember in Destiny 1, Cabal were bullet sponges. No matter how strong I thought I was, you shooting the crap out of a Cabal, you know, leader, that health ain't going down for quite some time until you start throwing out supers and you start seeing, like, you know, how it really goes. I can't remember. I think it was on Mars or Mercury. There's like a strike where you had to fight a Cabal boss, and it had like the railgun. No matter how much I shot that thing, that was a bullet sponge. You could be at high level. The damage was the damage. It was a bullet sponge. So Destiny could have always did that, right? Now I will say this: Destiny 1 to 2 has done many great things, but Destiny 1 for some reason just felt a lot more complete. The story made sense and didn't make sense at times, but I was immersed. I was stuck in it. I always wanted to know what was the next great thing going on. Destiny 2 did that to a certain extent, and at other times it didn't. But outside of I'm not really trying to complain. So they did do Onslaught, which I always talked about. They should have had an arena style system where they had small, medium, and large maps, waves of enemies, but not so much you having to run around different parts of the map and start building things and everything else. Not so much that, but more so about just waves, and if you can survive with your fire team, or do it solo if you want to, but there will be a difficulty multiplier with up to, we'll say 6 if you want. But I was thinking the 3 Guardians and then one with 6 Guardians. They did that for the most part. Another thing that I wish that they would have added was random rolls, or just random anything to weapons as well as gear. Now they did add gear bonuses and stuff like that, but I keep harping on Diablo 3 is because Diablo 3 had it to where you had exotics and you had 2 types. You had ones that was like static, meaning it would just be for that one, it could be used for anything, and then you had the green ones, which actually had different ways of altering different skills. Of course, Diablo 3, but if you had a gear set, like let's just say you was able to wear full exotic gear, let's just say sun bracers, what would be a healing one? What is it? Traveler's Blessing? I forget. It's the let's just say the helmet that allows you to have healing grenades for the warlock, right? and then you would have the exotic chess piece, Phoenix Protocol. I think that's what it was called. And let's just say that, that's a green gear piece of sorts. 2 pieces, and it helps with something that deals with healing or with buffing or something like that, as well as a bunch of random generated stats. I wanted it to be closer to like Diablo when it came down to the gear. Random static rolls and everything else, gear bonuses and everything. And we got something similar to that. But again, I was hoping that it would have came sooner than later. But more bonuses. You know what I'm saying? I think in Diablo 3, I think you can get up to 4, 6, or even 8 gear bonuses on it, but we only have, I think, 5 technically gear pieces to go by. So of course you would change things up as you need to there. I mean, I was also looking at weapons. I would have loved to have kind of like how I think it was D1, could be wrong, or maybe early D2 when they made class specific weapons. If you had the Warlock, you had the Laylock. Titans had the gun, or the machine gun, railgun, whatever it was, as a specific one. But I wanted more. So I was thinking maybe hunters could have dual dagger, or because they're hunters, crossbow or something like that, something specific. But because certain weapons now exist in the game, I don't want it to be exactly the weapon that's in the game. So for warlocks, having a tome or some type of book that allows them to be able to cast spells or whatever else, cause a different animation, kind of like how swords make you go into third person and you could turn it into a hack and slash game now. Titans, maybe dual battle axes, because we already got the large dual axe. They got hammers, or because of their subclass, they got shields. I don't know what else you could actually add for Titans, because they have them kind of like knights / paladins. Or warlocks could even have wands or scepters, just something different. Well, they got a scepter through stasis, so I guess maybe it would just be like a grimoire or a book that they hold that allows them to be able to cast certain things. Swords was a great touch. I loved it when we had Bulkcaster, Raise Lighter, and Dark Drinker. Maybe they could have came up with more, and they did when they ended up coming up with the special versions. But again, everything I'm thinking about is kind of man, I'm not saying that they needed to cluster everything in together in the beginning, but it felt like it was drip feed for so long, but it drip feeded me into wanting to see what other games were out there, which a lot of people did. And I'm still a Destiny stan because I'm playing the game till this day. Based off the footage that's being shown, I think I'm at light level 3 or 330. I finally hit 550 maybe 2 weeks ago, and I've been happy because anything I do at difficulty 500 up, which is just Grandmaster and some other stuff, everything drops at 550. Sometimes it hits 549. I raise the people's eyebrow a little bit, but for the most part, it's just letting me level up other weapons that I have to 550 so I can make them usable in game. I'm trying to think everything that I actually think about with the game, because when I tell you these were things that I was thinking about way early on, I'm talking about Destiny 1 early on. So that means that a lot of this stuff was not even thought about with Destiny 2. I wanted everything that was in Destiny 2 to be in Destiny 1. I would say probably the biggest thing right now is unsunset half the stuff, but for all things holy, unlock exotics. You're giving us catalysts for everything and all this other stuff. My favorite weapon in D1 was always what's that fusion rifle? Pocket Infinity. Pocket Infinity was my favorite weapon, because I'm over here just letting loose and unripping, put down my healing rift and just go to town. And every time when I get that random, it reloads and it keeps firing. No matter how many times you shoot me, I'm doing massive damage to you, because also, I played a lot of PvE. PvP, I played it when I need to. The most fun I have is typically sometimes in control, but mainly mayhem. Just because I get to chuck plasma everywhere. Again, Warlock. This isn't one of those fully edited type of videos or whatever else. It's just me wanting to put my 2 cents and my opinion out there. I think the Star Wars collab, Renegades, is actually a nice collab. It's one that makes sense. I felt like it was done a little bit too late, because if you wanted to do collabs, you could have did that early on with all type of stuff. But it feels like kind of like a Capcom niche with like Monster Hunter, because Monster Hunter puts all type of IPs that they have in it. And with that being the case, we could have been got a, Halo collab or whatever else, just to do certain things. Because let's be totally honest, you gave us Gundam skins, you gave us all type of skins that I wouldn't think would never be in the game, but they were, and they were normally like a Halloween type of thing. So if you want to do these collabs or just have like characters in it, should have done it way earlier on than just through skins, because I thought that would have been cool, adding a different story to where the fact that we have the Guardian and it's like Star Wars, you already introduced like time travel and everything else. Why can't you have strangers from another world come in, or our Guardian go into other realities or whatever else, and you get to pick up some nice things along the way? And not all of them would make sense, because let's be totally honest, our Guardian is broken as can be. So I don't expect our Guardian going into like Square Enix's world, into Final Fantasy, having to fight Sephiroth. By all accounts and measures, we're just as strong as Sephiroth at this point, if not stronger in some ways. Unless we know how to counteract Meteor or Ultimecia, whatever it's called. So, but there could have been some. We had Gundam Universe. We might not get in mechs, but who's to say we don't get a weapon similar to a beam rifle or whatever else? They have the same swords as Star Wars, so it could have been something. Gatling cannons, something. Our Ghost could have got changed into like a little mini Gundam, something. But anyways, I digress. It's, like I said, shout outs to Aztec Ross. I also found out that man's from Louisiana, and he ended up going to Florida. I ended up doing the same thing, so that was already an interesting coincidence. But I really don't want Destiny to die as a franchise, and I know it is. But I'm not so butthurt or emotional about it, because the game that's been taking my attention away from it has been the First Descendant, which surprisingly, it kind of gives me everything I want. It's not the most graphically enhanced or beautiful, and sometimes it is a buggy mess that might be partly on my hardware, but it's third person, it's open world. The loading screens is only in the beginning for some things, or for certain instances that you're doing, which you kind of have to have give and take. I have a massive amount of characters that do different things. Granted, in the elements, we got fire, we got lightning, we got electricity. They got some type of gravity / void. You got ice. It's almost the same, just done in different characters. Mainly waifus, but you got your husbandos in there also. But it's third person. It allows me to roam the world in somewhat of a detailed fashion, but you do have the loading into instances and dungeons just like Anthem. And because I'm on in-game stuff and I got so many characters I got to try to build, the blow hasn't been as hard, because I do have something else to fall back on. And that game's free to play, and everything is free. If you're willing to grind and unlock, you could do that. And the amount of time that I spent grinding in Destiny, which is still higher, there's, I want Destiny's franchise to expand. Now, the talk of Destiny 3 is something that I would want, but I feel like there are certain things that should have already been in place. Like, I'm over here complaining, why can't I wear full exotics? it shouldn't take Destiny 3 to actually do that, if they would even do that. You know what I'm saying? Destiny has some things that should have already been done from a common sense standpoint, but what they're doing is what they're doing. I know that the engine that they're on, the Tiger engine, doesn't allow for certain things or whatever else, which I get, but I'm gonna bring up a talking point that some, especially creatives, don't like, or artists. AI. You mean to tell me that during the process of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, especially when you went from paid to free to play, AI was already a thing, whether it was in its infancy or not, that you couldn't have already came up with a better engine, a more expansive engine to be able to give us everything? Now, if it takes Destiny 2 to die to implement an engine that is larger or massive enough to where you could be like, okay, we're going to port everything over and give us everything, things that were sunsetted and everything else, then I would say go ahead and do it. And if this expansion that you had waiting on was part of that, cool, because the biggest thing is Bungie's technology was archaic. I get that. So you got to be able to do something to be able to update it or elevate it. But within that time frame, I do agree. Destiny Classic would have been great. I still have my Destiny D1. I played it quite a bit already. Love it to death. But it's still old technology. So we will have to get to new technology. If the PS5 is the starting point on forward to be able to get Destiny 3 to be able to be expansive enough to house or hold everything, then so be it, do it. I feel like I'm just rambling, but I still want the arena. Onslaught is nice. The Prison of Elders is a nice touch. Give me a wave mode, something that every 5 levels you have a mid boss. It gives you some decent resources. It's a looter shooter, so of course loot is going to be a plethora everywhere. And then every 10 waves you fight a big bad, and you get even better gear or whatever else. Another improvement I would actually think about: unlock the levels. The power levels to me at this point should just be infinite. Because at one point we was over 1,000 in light level, or no, at one point it was called light levels, another point it was called power levels. I would bring back account levels or character levels, and I would bring in light levels also. It just adds more to the RPG or MMO vibe of it. Stories wise, if I'm correct, Destiny has more lore than Star Wars. You gotta expand upon it. One addition that I was thinking about, because I play a lot of gacha games, and this would just make sense. I don't like the portal, but you introduce something that maybe could be on the side. Why don't you do story missions, or not story missions, but just like a playlist of learning about Ikora, learning about Zavala, Shax and everybody else, playing through their come up to where they are now, from the beginning, to where they are now, from present, and however many missions it is. Like I said, like a gacha game, like 10 missions with story, exposition, all this stuff in between, and then you go to the next chapter. It could be 5 chapters per each one with 10 missions with story and everything else. It's something that would just keep you in the game. Now, I don't know if the Destiny Rising has that, but pretty much I'm talking about implementing certain things from gacha games in it that still from a free-to-play or free-to-try standpoint that would just keep people in the game. I know they're turning Bright Dust kind of into a currency, and I know silver is the premium currency, which is already gacha-like, but having it to where you can earn way more is just a way to just keep you within the economy and the system to keep it going for player retention. But there's so many things that I think that could have been implemented earlier on. Now, with that being the case, saying earlier on, if a Destiny 3 ever is to come about, I'll say maybe Sony will have a aha moment, and they'll be like, we're screwing up too much, we're losing too much money because we made a poor decision. Maybe early as 2 years, maybe they'll renege and be like, okay, we're taking Destiny out the vault. Or maybe it might be 5 or 6 years. They realize, hey, Marathon isn't the play. They're hearing all these gripes from the players. And I hate to say it, but if you think about it from a business standpoint, while we might be players in game, we are consumers when it comes down to a business standpoint. So the only thing they're looking at is dollar signs. And you have to vote with your wallet. If you're complaining and all you do is still play the game, why is Sony really going to listen? You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird give and take, but I want to see some of the implications that, or implementations that I was talking about. My biggest thing is I rather more random rolls as far as stats, like open it up to not just being 3, open it up to all of them. I know they have it to where you have to upgrade it to be able to get half of that. Screw all that. Make the stats random rolls. Let that power level go up to like 1,000% or 500% to get to whatever bonuses, perks you have. And let the tiers determine the percentage amount of how much that you'll actually get. You got 0 all the way up to 5 at this point. Everything should have that random roll. I would like all exotic gear to be opened up. I guarantee you it's probably 100 kilobyte like lock that's on it to where you can't have it, kind of like a Call of Duty DLC unlock. It's just certain things I think that would just be so good because the build battles would be crazy. You know, some people would still use legendary gear because legendary gear is going to have bonuses different from exotics and everything else. Of course, you'll say, why wouldn't you wear full exotics? But it's just one of those things of you make the drop rate just as rare as it was in D1. You know, but the reason why I was saying unlock character levels and infinite light levels is because even if you get an exotic, again, like Diablo 3, even if you get an exotic at level 5, it is going to have lower stats than when you got that exotic at level 100, light level 105, or whatever it is. It is more RPG based, you know, but I think it would just add and build to some stuff. But guys, look, this is my 2 cents. I still play Destiny. Again, I'm light level 550 with the Warlock. At some point, I'm gonna get to 550 with the Hunter. I think they're both at light level 400 or something like that. But these are some of the things that I wish was implemented early on. I wanted more elements. I wanted more versatility or diversity within the way how powers was used. I wanted different weapons that don't become streamlined in the game, that are character specific for the type of playstyle you like and for the characters that you like. Character customization is a little bit lacking, but I do know that you don't want to go too far into that. I mean, we got Souls games if you want to do all of that. And then, of course, the different options. Open it up to an arena mode. Maybe that goes up to 50 levels, and when it goes up to 100 levels, if you can muster that. And the unlocking of exotics. But hopefully y'all like the video. Let me know what y'all think of, you know, my ideas and my opinions and everything else. Again, shout outs to the whole Destiny community, because I know we're going strong. And again, I didn't know there were so many. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Aztec Ross, because outside of him, Frostbout, Mr. Fruit, Dado, Houndish, Fallout, there's quite a few people that I've watched and everything else when it comes down to it. Skeletor, because he makes some great skits. Just thank you to everybody that's part of the Destiny community that's trying to just keep it going. And hoping for a Destiny 3, but I'm hoping just, you know, Bungie doesn't die. But let me know what y'all think of my comments or my ideas. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. I'm going to try to get back on here and get the ball rolling with more content, but peace and love, y'all.